right, hey, welcome everyone, Chris Petri. We're just about to start our oil painting. I just wanted you to see the full painting. This is going to be the finished and completed painting that we'll be working towards. I'll cover all the details that you're going to need, your color mixes. I'll have all of my paints mixes on the camera, so you'll be able to see that at all times. You'll also be able to see our reference photograph, which we're using right here. So this is going to be on camera at all times, so we'll work along watching our photograph as we work, as well as all of our paint mixtures here. We have all our paint colors all on camera, so everything will be all at one time. Photograph, paints, and our painting itself on camera. You'll be able to see everything in clear detail, and we'll cover every detail you can imagine to get this painting done. So let's get started. All right, welcome everyone. Again, it's Chris Petri, and we're doing beautiful paintings in oil. We're going to just kind of go through a real simple, fun oil painting of a sunset in Venice. There'll be some water. We're going to have some water, a few buildings here. So we'll use our electronic devices. If you have an iPad, iPhone, home computer, laptop computer, whatever you have, you can always look up some photographs similar to this. Simple Google search, Venice sunsets, and you'll probably find this exact picture, I'm sure, if you went onto Google to do a search. In any case, you can just use it loosely as like kind of something just to follow a loose format, your photographs. You could use books, magazines. You can also find that there's other types of things. You might have movies, DVDs of that might have your favorite locations in it with a sunset. You can do that too. Put that on your screen. If you have a laptop, you might be able to put a DVD into your laptop and play a movie that you like, where it has a few scenes you like. You can hit pause and use. There's lots of things. That's what's great about art. Art is so fun because you can just actually use endless amounts of information to create your art from, basically. Or you can just use your imagination if you want. Let's say you do a few sunsets like this. You could actually create your own eventually and just come up with your own design. Maybe you'll have some architecture you want to put in or something like that of your own, and use the same kind of ideas for the sky and the colors and so forth. So it's all up to you. You're the artist. You'll have fun doing this, but I'll just go over the quick start out information that we need. I'm using Artisan water mixable oil paints, which are absolutely phenomenal. No worries. You just wash up with soap and water when you're done with your brushes and your hands and so forth. When you're working with Artisan, Winsor & Newton Artisan water mixable watercolors, it's called Artisan is the brand name. A brand is Winsor & Newton, but the line is called Artisan line, which is the water mixable. Well, you need some water to rinse out your brush occasionally, and most times you're just going to be using the paint and not really mixing it down with water, although you could thin down your paints with a little more water if you want to. So those are some of the things you'll kind of find as you go working in oils. When you're using the water mixable, you can make thinner washes and maybe have more of a thin kind of lighter look to your oil paintings, or you can use more thicker paints. It's up to you. Usually the main rule of thumb we say is start out thin. Make your first glazings of your oil on your canvas. This is a hardboard canvas. All my art supplies are down below. Never worry about that. If you're just starting out here, of course, you'll just know that in the comment section below I have all my art supplies, my paints, my brushes, different things like this. You can go there, check it out. It's all on Amazon. I buy all my art supplies on Amazon. 90% of all my art supplies, everything is usually there. And it gets shipped to my house really quickly. And I can spend my time working on my paintings and not having to really shop around and drive around and waste hours of time doing those type of things. So in any case, let's just go over quickly I'll get my brushes. Usually I'm using these brushes now. These are These are Princeton brushes, and these are like student grade brushes. They're synthetic. They're great. And so I'm really enjoying these. They're easy to find because of the blue stripe on the brushes. I trimmed down the ends of the brushes a little bit just because I have things here in my video setup where my brushes can start bumping into microphones and other parts of my setup over here and making videos, so I had to trim these down a little bit, make them smaller, but they're really beautiful brushes. And sometimes I'll use a palette knife too, which is like a flexible palette knife. And that's really it. And then the paints, of course, and the colors. I bought the set. I think it's like a dozen colors in the set, the Artisan, Winsor Newton Artisan set. And I use, I think, mostly all of them here in this. So I just basically put out my primaries, red, yellow, blue. So I put out cadmium red, alizarin crimson here. So that's the cadmium red, alizarin crimson. Then I put the burnt umber up here. This is can really be kind of a good color to maybe darken up a color a little bit if you want to when you're mixing. Earth color, beautiful earth color. And then the next colors were my three yellows, cadmium lemon yellow, cadmium yellow, which is kind of like an orangey yellow, and then our standard yellow ochre, which is like a standard on most every professional watercolor or oil, or even I would say even people that are working in acrylics. Everyone seems to really always have a yellow ochre on their palette. And blue, French ultramarine blue. So I have my French ultramarine blue. I'll just stick with the one blue for this painting. And then I also have some phthalo green, or we could call that viridian. It sort of looks like viridian to me. So I'll call that a viridian green or a phthalo green. Either or is fine. It's called phthalo on this Artisan line. And then I just have my large tube of white, and I mixed, or I squeezed out, large bit of white paint, because we usually use quite a bit of white. That's why I have the larger tube, so I don't run out of the white. And that's about it. That's the colors. That's how I set them up. I set them up just like my color wheel. So you might want to check out my video on color wheel. It's probably easy to find. Just Chris Petri oil painting color wheel. But I just use this setup. I'm always trying to set up my palette so that everything is in the logical locations all the time. So I'm always looking for my red over here, my yellow primary up here, and then my blue primary here. So if my paints are always being squeezed out on my palette or this wax paper, whatever you use for your palette, if you put them in the same location for the most part all the time, it'll save you a little more time thinking about where your paints are. You're always kind of knowing that your red's going to be over here, or you might change it up and make your color wheel a little different. You might have red like this and blue over here. So every artist might be different the way you set up your color wheel, but I tend to like this setup here. It's the same as my watercolor setup. Pretty much my warm colors, my reds and earth colors, are on my left side of my watercolor palette when I'm using watercolors. And so it's kind of the same idea. I just transition that over to my oils. And I always keep my oil paints close by in case I have to add some more to the palette, but I think we should be good here. We should have enough paint out. Here we're going to make the sunset colors first, the sky colors and the sunset with the water. So we're going to use a large brush like this, because we're going to have to cover a lot of ground here, and we don't want to be like, the last thing we want to do is try to make a large sky wash with like a small brush like this. That would be really like very time consuming. So always try to use the largest brush you can. So maybe most of our whole painting is going to be done with this larger brush here, and there's even larger brushes than this. So if you even want to get a larger brush than this one might be about the same. So you can get larger brushes and work with those and get the paint on your canvas quicker. That means you can start another painting quicker, right? So that's going to be a lot of fun. Once you start painting, you'll realize you're better off doing more paintings and just moving from one to the next and keep working on a lot of as many as you can. No sense in trying to get fussy with just one painting and trying to paint on one painting for like weeks and weeks and weeks. I would always encourage everybody, if you can, just keep working. Maybe you can section one of these larger hardboard canvases into two and make smaller compositions. Smaller compositions work really well too if you can do smaller bits of paintings, and then you just keep working on them. And you can do like the same one like this 3 or 4 times, using maybe some different color, changes in it if you want to. A little more orange, a little less orange, a little more blue, a little more purple. You could change your colors around a little bit. But let's get started. So I'll just right away dampen up my brush with a little bit of water. I'm usually always, I always have a paper towel in hand so that I can dry off a little bit of water when I rinse my brush. I get my fresh, clean water, so I have a water container. Fresh, clean water over here on the right-hand side of my working table. And that's about it. And then we could start with some white here. Maybe a little more over here. I think I might start over here. Maybe we'll start our blue over here. So we have white, and then I'll start picking up some of that blue. And I'll just pick up that blue like so. So now we see we have a nice light blue like this. And I'll just sort of pick up some green now. Some of that phthalo green. And I'll work some of that phthalo green into that mix. And I wouldn't thoroughly homogenize this color. I would leave it a little like so. I would not keep mixing and mixing and mixing and mixing. I would leave some identifiable colors of each of these two colors, French ultramarine blue and phthalo green. And we'll just start going in and getting our sky color on here. And again, like I was saying before, let's go thin with our first color that we put onto our hardboard canvas here. So I'm just going thin, and you can just keep thinning out this blue, bluish green, like this on your hardboard. And then where I have my tape on my hardboard to tape it down to my table, definitely you always want to have your hardboard or your canvas secured so it's not moving around on you while you're painting. So you always need to have your hardboard or your canvas secured down to your table. I hope that's something you'll be able to do while we're working together here, is kind of get that set up so that you don't have things kind of sliding around. And I'm just going to keep working this here, maybe even a little more green. And you can work some green into that blue. And of course, I will just keep brushing that paint very thinly into the canvas so that I'm covering the whole canvas board and working that paint right into all the little fiber-like structures of the hardboard canvas. Incidentally, this type of painting that I'm doing now, like the way I'm applying my paint, is much like you would see Bob Ross or William Alexander and like Lynn Petard. There was all different painters that I would see in my younger days when I was very young on public TV. And they would do this type of wet-on-wet method. And that's sort of what I'm doing. I find it really works great. You can kind of mix your colors on the actual canvas when you're working, which gives you some beautiful color mixes and blending of colors. And but you have to decide. I would say practice different techniques if you can. Try different, So I know some of you probably follow other oil painters on YouTube. So I would say great, follow as many as you need to or want to. Get different ideas from everybody, and then you come up with your own techniques and methods from all the different people you study with and learn from. So I'm just scrubbing in my colors. And then I'm even going thinner and thinner and thinner with this blue as I go lower and lower into the painting here. And I'm going to make the bottom, I'm going to absolutely get that water in there. See that water line there? So that's some of the water. We're going to definitely have water in the bottom of this painting. That's the bay, the ocean. And again, once you lift up your tape when we're done painting, you can just lift up your tape and then blend the extra paint you have on the canvas right into that spot where the tape was. So that's always an easy thing to navigate when you're painting and having your board or your canvas secured to the table or your palette, or I should say your easel, if you have an easel, if you're working at an easel. Some people like to work standing with an easel. That's fine. I'm standing at my table here. Okay. And then here I'm going very extra thin because I'm going to make this more orange and red over here at the bottom, so I don't really need to work in every single bit of color there. But the top I have. And you'll see too, this is really wonderful. You're going to actually, this is a quicker type of painting you're going to do. You're not going to have to spend too much time, like hours and hours and hours. This only took us 10 minutes to actually get this first coat of thin blue, very, very thin, thinly applied blue with some phthalo green, and of course white is like sort of our thinning medium for this. And I think that looks fine. It looks really good. The last thing we'll do are the buildings. And that's even if we want to do the buildings. We could just paint this whole painting as just a sky and some water and maybe some mountains or coastline along the back of the painting. And we don't necessarily have to draw in buildings, although we will. But you could leave those out if you want to. If you decide, I'm not really going to be interested in painting some of the buildings, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Paint whatever you're comfortable with. Adjust your paintings. I always say that as an artist. Adjust your paintings. Add things in, delete things out as you want to make it easier for yourself or to challenge yourself. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take a quick break now. I just want to get another brush or two that I have over here set up so that I can kind of just decide what brushes I'm going to use for the rest of the painting, kind of have those set up and ready to go. And I think we have plenty of color out on our palette still, our wax paper. So we're good with that. And all right, we'll be right back in a second. All right, so we're going to continue mixing some additional colors here, our oranges and reds, golden colors for the sunset. I usually, again, I keep my paper towel here. I rinse off my brush a little bit maybe, dry off all that blue and the water and the blue and white paint. And then I don't have to be too fussy with that because we're going to be blending all the colors right now. So we're going to have a fun time blending the mixtures. And then we'll see how it goes. And again, this is sometimes oil painting is very fun. It's a kind of like paint as you go, and you're creating and mixing as you're working your painting. So the next thing we'll do is I'll take some of my white. Again, that's sort of like my medium, my white. Like we could call it like a medium. You know, you could use water if you wanted to, but for this painting, let's just use the white for sort of like our medium. And then we're going to go with I would say let's start out with the red, alizarin crimson, a little bit of the cadmium red, a little bit of cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon yellow. So you can sort of mix out your colors, get some different varieties going, like that. You just have to realize that once you start mixing out your colors, yellow ochre, once you start mixing out your colors, and then maybe some burnt umber for a darker red, which is alizarin crimson and burnt umber, with a darker red. Once you start mixing out your colors like this and get a few different varieties of your reds and golds, that's a perfect time where you rinse out your brush now, just to get all that luxurious paint that you've kind of mixed here to get your colors. Now we just rinse off that brush so we can start out with another, again, kind of just a damp brush and kind of clean of any kind of paint. We're still going to be mixing all of these, but let's start over here. And again, I might be going off this might not be exactly what we're seeing here. Okay, but it's somewhat, and then I just blend these colors. Okay, and then as we go upwards, it's more blue as we move upwards. And then we kind of look here and say, all right, that's quite a bit of orange and red in the sky there, so let's keep working that here. If you need to mix more, white, both reds, some of that darker red there, a little bit of burnt umber with red, alizarin crimson. Okay, so now you've seen how we've got quite a bit of the reddish mixtures with some gold in there, some yellows and things, but now as we go up we'll get more of the yellows. So we'll move into the yellows, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon yellow, and we'll pick up a little bit of white just so we can get this kind of flowing a little bit here, mixing, blending. And this is the fun of it. Now you can see how you just start to blend nice and gently as you go upwards here. And there's still gold and red up in the color, up in the sky, up at the top of the sky up here where we're seeing the highest levels of the sky. There's still some of this beautiful gold and red mixing around. So we want to have that. And I'm just gently kind of mixing it together all the way across the whole entire painting, right off the canvas like that. So it feels like we're just seeing a snapshot of what's here. Of course, you can take some of that blue and come back in and take some of that blue and go back over the top over here. But I think that's looking good. I hope you're going to enjoy doing your blending and your mixing of colors how we did this here, and it doesn't have to turn out exactly the way I did it, of course. You might have a little more orange and yellow in yours. You might have more red than orange and yellow, but it's up to you. You can kind of just mix in. You have time as you're working to mix in your colors, and that is fine. Now again, what I'll do is take another quick break, and then we'll finish up by just adding in some of our distant shoreline, maybe a little touch of that sun there. You can see the setting sun or the rising sun, and a little bit of the buildings here. So we can do a little bit of buildings and some of that distant shoreline, and we'll have a completed painting, a beautiful oil painting with a sunset sky, kind of like a real iconic, beautiful painting you could do over and over again, and have some frames and put them in some frames. You can, it's endless the kind of fun you can have and the enjoyment you can have with your oil paintings. Okay, so let's come back. I'm just going to take a quick break. Alright, so now we have a new microphone set up. I just happened to have to change out my microphones for some reason. My other microphone I was using to start this video wasn't working anymore after about half an hour, I guess, into our video here. So I changed microphones. Hopefully it's the new one I'm putting in, which I've purchased already a year ago or so. Hopefully that is working good and in good order. It'll probably sound a little different than what we started with, but in any case, you'll let me know in the comment section how the new microphone sounds. In any case, let's keep moving on here. So we kind of were looking at, we've pretty much got all of the sky completed with our glazings of our oil. We have the bluish, purplish kind of color up top. We use more of a bluish green sky up here with some of the Viridian or phthalo green, and then the French ultramarine blue mixed with white. So we kind of did that first glazing across the whole painting, the whole canvas. So we have a hardboard canvas here. And then we started mixing in our golds and our reds and to give that beautiful sunset feel. And now we're looking back at our photograph to get a little more interesting details that we're going to kind of just do to finish this painting. And let's just go for more of a very abstract kind of, impressionistic style painting here, where we're not going to get into crucial high-level details on these buildings and the other background here, the shoreline and the water. Let's keep it very simple. So we've already got the majority of our painting done. the sky wash in with the sunset red and orange and yellow golden colors. Okay, we left some blue on the bottom of our canvas for the water because we do have water here. Let's just make a few notes here with a pencil just on the bottom of our canvas. I'm going to say, I'll make a pencil mark about here and say that that's about where I'm going to place this group of buildings here. And then I also made another mark here on my canvas while we were away, taking a break. I just was working a little bit, and I noticed I'd like to have the sun here, the sunset, the actual sun itself, that whitish, yellow ochre, reddish sun, that little glowing globe of the sun going down or rising for the sunrise or sunset. And I think that's will be that location here. So now that we have those two main, waypoints, which is the buildings and the domes, and then the sun, the actual white hot sun here. We'll put that in about this location right here. So we kind of have those two things set up. Let's just do a little bit of some pencil sketching here, just to kind of get ourselves in the right spot with our pencil drawing. So what you could do is you could take a ruler and then just measure up and say, all right, I want to make the water line, the horizon line of the water that goes across the picture. You might say to yourself, well, I want to have that like maybe 1 inch above the bottom of the painting. So let's do that. Let's make that 1 inch. We can just swap our ruler around this way and just say, okay, that's 1 inch. So maybe we'll go 3/4, maybe 1 inch. Let's stick with that. 1 inch right here. Then when we'll come over here, we'll make another little mark, little hash mark, 1 inch there. Then you could take your ruler and just come across here, and you don't have to lay your ruler down into the painting, the paint itself. You can just kind of set it across and just make a slight mark like that. Just a little light pencil line if you want, like that, or you could use charcoal. So that'll give us our shoreline here. Okay, that's as simple as that. And what I did do, actually I did mention this, when we took a break, I also took some paper towel, and since I knew I was going to be painting on this bottom, very, very bottom portion of the painting here, I just took a little bit of a paper towel and blotted some of this oil paint off of my canvas, because I want it to be really super thin so that my next subsequent oil glazing, where we're going to create these domes and these buildings and some of the shoreline, I don't want to get into super thick paint. I'd like to keep this a thinner application of oil paint on this whole entire board. So what I did was I took the paper towel and just went along here, and I just pressed it down and pressed it like this, and then went over here, pressed it down really well and lifted up, and then I lifted off some of the paint, and we still have plenty of good color left here, so no worries on that. Now we're ready to start doing some painting for our foreground. So in this case, I'm going to actually use a smaller brush now, since we're doing smaller details. And you always just remember as you're painting oils, you're using like the brush that fits the subject matter you're painting. So for this huge sky that we painted in water, we were fine using a large brush like this. We want to do that. Then as we're working smaller details like the shoreline and these buildings, we have to shift down to a smaller brush like this. So you can see the differential of sizes of brushes. So just remember that. Keep in your mind, it's kind of like driving a car, shifting gears. When you're on the highway, you're in a high gear, you're going fast, you're in a higher gear. Then when you start to maybe go around the smaller, tighter side roads and secondary roads, when you're off the highway, then you shift down to a lower gear or a smaller brush. So I kind of can think of it that way. And then let's keep going here. So let's get some of these buildings in. And I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time. I'm just going to say, all right, these buildings are looking like a lot of bluish green in them. So that's when we're going to take some more white, come right back over here where we were creating our blue and green, like this, blue and green, like that. Maybe a little bit of brown just to neutralize those blue and greens. A little bit, you could add some red in there too. Kind of a purpley bluish green. Mix it up, get it like a gray. Okay, and then we have it. let's see how we can start to just, I think I need more white for some of this, so let's come up here. And then we'll work up our lighter bit of paint. So what we'll do is we'll take a lighter version of this gray that we just mixed and we'll make it lighter up here. Just because we see in the picture that we do need quite a bit of a lighter like that. See how good that looks? That's kind of like a lighter where those buildings are over there in the distance. So I'm just going to make the overall shapes like this, which is a rectangle. So we're going to just make a rectangle, kind of like a tissue box looking shape like this. So that's all you're concerned about right there, is a tissue box shape to start with here. And then we're going to go with a larger dome over here like this. So we're going to make a larger dome shape. We'll keep it all the same kind of shape here. We'll make the round dome shape like this. So a dome is really just a half circle like that. We'll go over with darker washes on top of this, but right now we're just going with the lighter tonal values over here, and then we'll put the darks in. Hope that is going to work out good. I think it will, actually. We are pretty good right now. So now we have the dome, the first dome, and then there's another smaller dome over here like that. So I just make that a little bit of a circular dome type of shape there, and then there's some other. They're darker shapes though, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's just keep the lights in here so we can see the lights of this shape here. Okay, we have those in. Perfect. Now, I think that's good. That's going to be the light shapes over here. And then we might have a few lighter shapes over here. There might be some more buildings over here. So we'll put some of that lighter, again, lighter glazing that we have over here, just in this section over here a little bit. And then from this point, we're looking at lighter water so that we can use this color right across here for some lighter tonal values, lighter washes for the water all the way across here. So if you feel there's too much light or too much red and orange, you know, you can adjust your water according to what you're seeing here. And then we'll do that in the end. So when we're finished creating our buildings, then we'll put in a little bit of final touches in the water. But right now, let's get our building completed. So now, let's take our brush and we'll rinse it off. This brush here we might be kind of completed with right now. We're going to use some other brushes that are a little bit even smaller than this. So you can kind of see we're kind of wrapping things up with our medium size, small to medium size flat brush here to get our buildings in here, our rotundas. Now we're going to grab our small fine point brush, and this is the number 2 brush here, and then I just rinse off the brush a little bit to start with, dry off the paint on a paper towel. I just make sure there's no residual paint that might be from a previous painting session on my brush. Okay, now we can kind of get into some darker. So now here's the darker with a little more burnt umber, a little more blue, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber. You can even add in a little bit of red, just to get a bit of darker wash. I think we darker glazing. Let's make sure we get it pretty dark here. So let's get in that. All of these three: green, phthalo green, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, a little bit of red, and there we go. We have a good dark there. That looks good. Then we take that dark paint mix, dry off our brush a little bit, roll our brush around so we have a nice point on there. See, that's a good point, like that. And then we'll just start putting in some of these darker darks, like this, and then we'll put some darks around the rotunda of the. The only thing is when you start creating darks over the top of these light washes, glazings we just did, you have to rinse, dry off your brush and pick up more darks like this, because the darks will get sort of they'll get lighter as we go because you're picking up some of that paint, the underpaint that we just painted there. So you have to remember just to keep picking up darker paint as you go so that you can get the darker darks over here. That. And you just kind of go and you see how it looks. Looks pretty good. There might be some dark like this here. Some more darks over here, some more darks over there. I dry off the brush on a paper towel, get all that paint off, and then go in and pick up some more of that dark. And that's how you keep your darks going and your darks looking good, is by rinsing off the brush a little bit, drying off, and then picking up that darker dark. And if you need to make more darks, just keep doing it. Straight blue, phthalo green, burnt umber, a little bit of alizarin crimson. Get all those beautiful colors in there and make it a nice dark dark. Spin the brush around to get yourself a nice point on your brush. And then you just get those in there. They're not going to be extremely, they're going to be dark, but not completely dark at this point. You want to have a little bit of that atmospheric haze, or there's like a haze sometimes in the distance, so when you're painting things far away, they're going to look a little bit hazier. So that's what we want to do here. We don't want to make it too dark. We want to keep it realistic looking to the background here. As you can see, that's in the distance. These buildings are in the distance in this painting, so we don't want to make them really too pronounced with really super dark colors and tonal values. We want to keep those a little bit grayed down and a little bit cooler, more toward the blue. If anything, you're going to want to make these more bluish colors here, bluish green. Some green in there. Mix up those colors. So some blues, some greens. Okay, looks good. There might be some other buildings in the distance over here, but they're very, very slight. We can't barely see them, so we're just going to leave those very, almost like super abstract. Like we can't really, there might be some darks here too. A couple of dark buildings in the distance here like this. And then we're going to have, again, more blue, green, more toward the distant colors with some brown. More brown, I would say. These are earth colors, brown and green, phthalo green, brown. We're just going to make those background colors here, which are the trees and hills. And you just want to get in some trees and hills in the distance here. And it doesn't have to be detailed at all. You get maybe you just go across with a nice straight line for the where the water is, right? The water. Keep that water line straight. So we'll just kind of blend that water line in like this. And then here, you can do a little bit of just some variations in the, we want to undulate the distance a little bit. Like that. And we'll just do the same thing here, and then there's some more. And then we can just go right straight across, one stroke all the way across like this, slowly building up the layers of paint so that we get a really nice dark in there. Like that. Okay. And then we do some really nice hill shapes with the trees. Just like that. Okay, so we are really well on our way to finishing up now. What we're going to do is just kind of finish the couple of final details here. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. And the reason I say take a break is sometimes when you take a break, you'll grab your favorite refreshment. You might have a cup of coffee, cup of tea, a glass of iced tea or water or something. You have your beverage. You come back, you take a stretch, you come back, and then you look at your painting and you look at your photograph and you go, oh yeah, now I see what I want to do. When I'm finishing up now, my painting, I'm going to do A, B, and C, or, something like that. Like, you're going to say, I'm going to have a game plan of doing like 2 more, 3 more things, and that's it. Not working it too much, not overworking things, and that's what we're going to do. So when I come back, I'm going to have like 2, 3 items that I think I'm going to just key in on to finish up this painting, and I'm hoping you're going to follow along with me too and kind of do the same thing. You can always, again, in the future, when you create maybe another 1 or 2 or 3 of these on your own, when you're maybe doing some of your own paintings on your own time, let's say, like when we work together. Sometimes you're going to work on your own, and that's fine. So, excuse me. So, when you do that, you'll have lots of ideas, but you'll always remember, if you take a quick couple breaks here and there as you're working, it's always to your benefit, because then you can always take a break, relax, and when you relax, you're able to kind of think a little bit more clearly, and then you'll come back and go, okay, I don't want to keep working incessantly on this painting and adding more details and this and that. It looks pretty good the way it is, but let me just do these 2 or 3 things or 4 things, and that's it. And that's all I'm going to do. And you'll find that the less you overwork your oil paintings, the more happy you're going to be with the end results. I promise you that. So always remember, under-complete your paintings as much as possible, because remember, you can always go back a day or 2 later and add a few little things in. But if you keep adding things and adding things and adding things, a lot of times you can't really fix that, because it gets hard to kind of adjust and fix those type of issues and type of things when you're trying to. If you add too many things into your painting, it's really hard to kind of scrape it off and repaint it, and and then figure out what colors you use and have to go back and remix colors. So you're always better holding back a little bit, keeping things a little bit less detailed, and then add the details at the very end and do them very sparingly, because remember, you're creating when you're painting your oil paintings, you're doing like I would say, kind of like an impressionistic style. You're trying to get an impression of what you're looking at from your photo, from your book that you might be looking at, or pictures online, whatever it is you're working from. You're getting an impression of it. You're not really trying to copy it exactly. You can adjust it, and we talked about that in the whole video here. But all right, let's just take a quick break, and like I said, I'm going to come back and just say these are the 3 things I'm going to do, and maybe you'll follow those same 3 or 4 things I'm going to do as you're finishing up too, and then you'll be a happy camper. Okay, I'm hoping you'll be a happy camper. So let's come back in a few minutes and we'll finish up. All right, so now we're finishing up, doing our final touches to our oil painting of this beautiful sunset in Venice, Italy. I wanted to just write down 4 things I thought I could work on, just a few last bit of things that I could add to this painting without going too overboard and making it like a 12, a 10 or 12, numbered list. I just came up with 4 things. Add in a setting sun globe, which we can see here in the photograph right there, that kind of beautiful whitish, yellow, ochre white sun. That's the globe of the sun setting or rising, if you will. I said to add some sun warm red and orange to the buildings. See, my buildings are a little bit cool. I think I could add a little bit of some warmer, like, those sunset warmer tones, the reds and the oranges and yellows and golds. The third thing I thought to myself I might need to do is add a few dark clouds in the sky. I could add a few dark clouds in the sky, and I think what that'll do is it'll actually give me some more, it'll give us more of a 3-dimensional quality to the painting if we can make some larger clouds across the top and then make some smaller ones, thinner ones going into the distance. That'll kind of create that illusion of depth in the painting. I think I can work that into this painting pretty quickly, pretty effectively, and it's going to look really good and give us a little more, impact for our painting to add some three-dimensional quality. And the fourth thing I just thought to myself is I should touch up the water reflections a little bit. I should probably just make a little bit of a better line across the bottom where the water is, where the shoreline is. It should be. I have a couple of spots where I went, a little bit too far into the water, and I lost that edge a little bit there, so I'll fix that up a little bit, and maybe we'll put some of these reflections in the water. I'm not sure if I will do that or not. The photo doesn't show too much reflections in the water of the distant hills and building, which that means that those reflections, the water is very choppy, I would say. The water is very, very choppy right now, so it's picking up all the light from the sky, and it's not really picking up much reflections from the shoreline. So I'm going to leave that the way we see it in the photograph here on our iPhone or Samsung phone or whatever you have, iPad. And so let's get started with those 4 items. I think we'll go right down the list. I just want to empty my water. I might have to go over and grab another water bottle. And this is sort of like a New Year's painting. I'm thinking of it as a oil painting for the new year, to start off the new year really well. And we'll probably come back in 2 weeks from now, or a little more than 2 weeks. So I'm going a little bit ahead of my schedule right now, but I figured we could create a nice, beautiful painting to start out the new year in 2025 right now. And all right, so let's do the first thing. Add the setting globe of the sun here. Very simple to do that. We just take some of the white with a little bit of the yellow ochre, so that our white is kind of got that really nice warm glow to it, like that yellow ochre-y glow of the sunlight. You could add some glow over here, some orange, some yellow, cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon yellow, a little bit of yellow ochre. You add that into your white there just to get a little bit of that nice looking bright glow. And then we're going to put it here. We've made a hash mark down here, so let's keep to our, like this. Okay, so that's good. I like that. That looks fine. I could rinse off my brush a little. Take my paper towel, dry off the brush a little bit. Maybe we'll pick up a little bit of white. Just a tiny bit of the more white, though. Make it a little bit more stark white, with just a little bit of the touch of that gold. Okay, so that'll be here. And then maybe what I can do is maybe just add a little bit of lighter white there to the paint, just to pretend that the light has the sunlight here, this setting sun or this rising sun has caught a little bit of the water here, just a touch of the water, and even the hills a little bit too. That looks good. I'm really happy I got that little bit of that globe of the sun there. Maybe we could just take a little bit of, maybe we could add a little bit of that glow to the sky over here. With a little bit of that yellow ochre-y white. Just to have a little bit of that lightness over here in the sky right by the sun. We could add that in. We could step back and look at it, see how it's kind of coming along. If you're looking at it, when you're working up close to your work, it's always good to step back a little bit, kind of see how it's working out. You can rinse off your brush. Blend this in a little bit here. So you could add a little bit of that yellow ochre white over here, just to make it feel like there's a little bit more light over here. I think that's good. Maybe the same thing, we add a little bit to the water. Just a little bit more to the water over here. Okay, I think that looks good. And what was our second thing on the list? We added, the first thing on the list was add in setting sun globe. Add some warm reds and oranges to the buildings. Okay, I thought that was too cool, these buildings. They need to have that little bit of orangey red. We'll come right over here. We already have all that mixed up already, and it's still fine. That's what's beautiful about oil painting. If you're coming from watercolors and you're working with oils, you'll just notice that you have a ton of time to use your washes, your glazings, I should say, and your oil paints as you work. So you don't need to ever fret or worry that you don't have time. You have plenty of time when you're working with oils. It's really really extremely fun and enjoyable medium to work with. So I'm just doing that. I'm adding some of those reds and oranges to my buildings here, as you can see. And that's what I wanted to do. Just make sure I add some of those reds and oranges into some of these darks over here. Okay, and we have accomplished that now. Okay, what was next on our list? I just noticed right away, let me just do a couple more darks here. There's some more darks that are on these buildings here. We just want to add a few more details to that. Okay, that looks good. And then if you sometimes my pictures time out, I apologize for that. I'll keep sticking with my game plan here. What else do I have to do? Okay, add a few dark clouds in the sky. All right, let's do it. Let's use a little bit of a larger brush here. We'll go back to that larger brush. Use the number 4, like this. Rinse off the brush a little bit. Paper towel. And then we're going to make some darker clouds. I would say let's not recreate the wheel. Let's take some of our darker darks that we already mixed up over here. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll just mix up some of these grayish looking colors, and we'll do the darker ones up top first, maybe. Okay, now what happens is once your paint starts to dry a little bit on the canvas, you have to be careful. So that's where I would just caution everyone that sometimes you only have about an hour or two that you can go back in and start putting in some of this, like cloud shapes and things like this. But I think we have enough time right now. We're still okay. But it could be a problem if you went in like 3-4 hours later. Like if you took a lunch break or a dinner break and you came back, that could be a problem. So that's why I'm just mentioning it. But right now, it looks okay. So you see I put a large dark cloud there. Across. Let's do the same thing here. Maybe a little bit of red in there. Could take some of that red. They're going to get a little bit more red and orange, these clouds, as they get closer to this sunset here. The sunset colors, the oranges. So now I'm going to make these a little bit smaller. Okay. Like we said before, to create the illusion of three-dimensional quality to your paintings, you can just think of things as always getting smaller as they go into the distance. So up here in the sky, this is the closest part of the sky to where we're standing in the picture. If we're standing on a boat or the opposite shoreline, this would be the closest to us up here, the sky up here. And then as the sky goes further into the distance this way, it gets further and further away. So we have to kind of keep in mind now is as we go, and we're doing a few of these clouds, we're going to make them a little bit warmer too. Smaller and warmer. That's all we have to remember. Smaller and warmer. And then we could do this like that. Like this. And then you can see I'm just really now starting to just sort of wind them down, make them smaller here, like so. Like this. Like that. And then you could also take some of that yellow and red. Just a little bit of the yellow and the red, maybe a little bit of the white over here. Start to pick up a little bit of that sunlight, the sunlight over here, the white paint with the yellow ochre. Start to pick up a little bit of those bits of sunlight catching on the clouds, the bottom of the clouds. Okay, I think that's good. So that was the third thing on the list. And then the last thing on the list we had was touch up water reflections. Okay, that's easy enough. I'm going to lift off my tape so I can blend in my water. And I just rinse off my brush. Pick up some of that blue. That's what we have to do to touch up that spot where we taped everything down. Add some blue to that we already mixed up before. Okay, and get that blue in there. Okay, just to cover up some of those pencil marks and things. And that looks good. And then we could just touch up again the shoreline. So we can make our shoreline like this here with the same highlight color with the sun. And then maybe some of the yellow and red, and then a little bit of the grayish color there. So we're kind of making just a really nice kind of gray color that we're mixing with all the colors that we've already mixed previously. If you've mixed these colors previously in the painting, you can mix them and interchange them, and it'll look fine because it's all the same colors mixing over and over again. So everything's going to look nice and cohesive together as one whole as you paint. And then we just, like I said, I wanted to touch up that shoreline. This might be a little bit lighter over here. I want to make this lighter like that. You could put some vertical lines like this where you have some of the greens and blues like this, and kind of you could do that. Try it, see how it works out. Sometimes you do things and then go back and forth like this and just have a bit of reflections there. That works pretty nicely. And then again, you could do a little bit of the yellow ochre and the white. Since we're touching up this, again, touching up the water, like we said, you could also do a little bit of this, adding a little bit of that sunlight color right along here, like that. And even some sunlight color over here. Since you have it over there, the sun's over here, it's shining this way, there might be a couple little bits of tiny, beautiful highlights along these buildings. And you can just add a couple of those highlights, just like that. Just a few, not too many though. That could ruin the painting if you do too many of those, maybe up here. blend in a little bit of colors here and there. Alright, I think this is a perfect painting to do for the new year. Exciting sunset painting, oils, water mixable oils, no fuss, no muss. You're just using waters, water to clean up, soap and water to clean up your tools, water to just clean off your brushes with a little bit of soap and water. Maybe at the end of the session you can clean off all your brushes with warm soapy water, and then just let them air dry, and then you're ready for your next painting. So again, very easy to use these water mixable oils. I always rave about them. The Winsor & Newton Artisan line of paints, water mixable oils. Let's do one more thing as we go here. Let's lift off this top tape. And this way, a little bit of white, a little bit of green, a little bit of French ultramarine blue. Scrub in a little bit of blue up there to cover up your tape, like that. That's a perfect ending to a painting. You're covering up your last little bits of tape marks. And we have a completed painting. Thanks so much for coming by, painting along with me in oils. We're having fun here. And again, we're going to see in about 2.5 weeks. So this is kind of a little bit ahead of schedule, this painting, but I wanted everyone to have a really fun start to the new year. Maybe you can start working on your oil painting project a little bit earlier this week. And hopefully everyone is enjoying these fun oils as much as I am. And let's continue to enjoy it. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.